is a vibrant, thriving city. And I've been reading about the great ways that Mayor Duggan has transformed Detroit and the pride that people have in living here. Joanne, thank you for your dedication to this community. Your hard work inspires everyone around you. And I'm also grateful to Mary Liz Curtin, the owner of 3 cats. I love that name, don't you? I could make some other comments, but I won't. See, you read the bubble above my head. So, Mary Liz, this is a perfect gathering space, and thank you for welcoming us today.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. She used her teacher voice, I heard that. So I'm so glad to be here with so many local elected officials, including Representative Haley Stevens, and along with Oakland County Executive Dave Coulter. This county forward. So thank you all for being here. You're such a great crowd. So serving as First Lady has been the honor of my life. But I've also worked so hard to build a career that I love. So I do both. I've been a teacher for 40 years. And as First Lady, I continued to commute from the White House to a community college in Virginia. Now, my students have a lot of shining qualities, but boundaries are not one of them. So years ago, I had to tell my class that I would have to miss the next session for personal reasons. So they immediately began shouting, Dr. B, where are you going? Well, my sister Jan was having the first of her cancer treatments, a stem cell transplant, and she would be in a hospital room for more than 6 weeks. So I tried to explain that to my class with as much composure, that I could muster, but, the words caught in my throat. So I turned around to my whiteboard, hoping to hold back my emotions. And when I turned back around, my entire class was standing, and they lined up and they gave me a hug, one by one. And until that moment, I didn't realize how much I was struggling or how much I needed them. And at the end of the day, all of us need that community. Whether we're in a red state or a blue state, none of us can survive this life on our own. We need leaders who can build up our communities. Leaders who put our country first, like my husband Joe and like Kamala Harris. You've probably heard all sorts of lies about Kamala. Or maybe you're talking to your friends or neighbors who say they just don't know enough about her. So today, I want to tell you about Kamala Harris. Before her time as vice president, back before she was a United States Senator or Attorney General of California, even before she joined law enforcement as a prosecutor and district attorney, putting away dangerous criminals and making our communities safer. I want to tell you a story about when she was in high school, a moment that defined her life's work. Kamala began to notice that her friend Wanda never seemed to want to go home from school. And at school, Wanda just seemed, a little withdrawn, a little off. So one day, Kamala pressed her. She said, "What's wrong?" And Wanda confided to her that she was being molested by her stepfather. And Kama didn't just listen. She did something about it instinctively. She said, "Wanda, you have to come stay with us." And Wanda did. And then Kamala Harris built a career serving the public to protect women and girls like Wanda. That is Kamala Harris. A tough, compassionate, decisive leader. That's the kind of president you deserve, Michigan. To yourself, "Okay, Jill, but what's Kamala going to do about my grocery bill?" Well, prices spiked during the pandemic, remember? But now corporations are keeping those prices high, making record profits while families are paying more for groceries. And Donald Trump wants to give those same corporations a tax cut so that they can make even more money. And that's unacceptable. Kamala will lower prices. She will fight back against greedy corporations and crack down on price gouging. So here's the thing. Businesses will still do well, but they'll have to play by fair rules. So now let's talk about housing. Kamala was raised by a working mom in a middle-class household. But still, it took her mom several years to save up for a down payment on their first home. And Kamala has told us about the joy on her mother's face when she said to Kamala, "This is our house. All of us deserve that pride." Kamala is going to fight back against corporate greed that has driven up those housing costs, and she'll give first-time home buyers $25,000 to help with their down payment. Because in our country, if you work hard, you should be able to afford a home for your family. And finally, let's talk about what's at stake for women in this election. When Roe v. Wade was overturned, I was stunned. Weren't you? Devastated. Women of my generation know what it was like before Roe and how hard we fought to leave our daughters and our granddaughters more rights than we had. No one has to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree that the government shouldn't be telling women what to do. Donald Trump's abortion bans have taken away the ability for women to make their own health care decisions. Our health, safety, and freedoms shouldn't hinge on the state you live in. As president, Kamala Harris will proudly sign a national law to restore reproductive freedom to every woman in every state in our country. Kamala Harris is going to work for you and your families, lowering grocery costs, making housing affordable, and protecting our freedoms. These aren't radical ideas. They're just practical ways to make life easier and more fair. As president, Kamala Harris is going to fight for you. In the U.S. Senate when Michigan elects Alyssa Slotkin. I'm thinking about one person and one person only, himself. Another Trump administration would lead to more chaos, more greed, more division. He wants to lower taxes for rich guys like him. Well, costs go up for everybody else. Teachers, firefighters, and nurses shouldn't have to pay a higher tax rate than CEOs. And this is so important. The next president will likely choose new Supreme Court justices, right? And our children and grandchildren will have to live with those consequences. Our future, that's what's at stake in this election. So as Kamala and I have gotten to know each other over the past 4 years, we bonded over many things. But one was how we lost our mothers, both to cancer, both long before we were done meeting them. And I often wish that I could hear my mother's voice. And Kamala treasures a handwritten recipe that her mother saved in a notebook. And her mother's voice still rings in her ear, motivating her. Apparently, Kamala's mom was a tough mom. You know, she had high expectations. Growing up, when Kamala was upset about something, her mother would turn it back on Kamala and say, "What did you do?" That was the biggest lesson Kamala's mother taught her. Within Kamala was the power to create change. It started with her. And that's why Kamala Harris is the decisive, strong leader she is today. We need that steady leadership now more than ever. I want you to remember 2016. The morning after the election, when we awakened to find that we had fallen short. Remember that feeling? Remember thinking, if only we had made more calls or knocked on more doors. We cannot let that happen again. In Michigan, you can vote early, and at some locations, you can register to vote at the same time. If you live in Detroit, you can register and vote early at any of the 14 early voting locations, starting this Saturday, October 19th. Statewide early voting starts by October 26th. So go to iwillvote.com/M-I- to learn more, Michigan. And then after you voted early, convince 10 more people to do the same. We have to work harder than we've ever worked before. We have to push further than we've ever pushed in the past. We have to meet this moment as if our rights are at stake, because they are. As if our freedoms are on the line, because they are. With determination, with persistence, with urgency, we will elect a new generation of leaders. We will choose a new way forward. So let's go elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz.